you know.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. It's your host, FERMI, here with another episode of the Music Producer's Treasure Box. Let's see. Today, I've got an amazing guest lined up for you. My man, Walid Azami, is the photographer of the stars, okay? I'm not sure if that's actually what he's known as, but that is the moniker that I am going to forever give him right now today on the show. This man has actually shot stuff for the world tour of Christina Aguilara. He shot for Ricky Martin. He shot for Usher. That's where he really did a lot of great work. He even has shot for Kanye and folks like Mariah Carey. Okay, when he started listing off all the artists that he had worked with, my mind was blown. And honestly, that's only a portion of what he does. He's also an educator with his own online masterclass. And he has started out of passion, as you will hear in a moment, the Instagram account, How to Photograph, where he posts inspirational posts consistently to get creative juices flowing, specifically for actual, photographers. But he's not only doing it for photographers. I think a lot of what he does can easily be applied to creatives of any type, whether you're a musician, artist, or etc. Matter of fact, I recently just reposted, in anticipation of this show, one of his posts about the power of tiny gains. And I actually have to give it a shout out right now. Head over to FERMI Music, FERMI_music on Instagram, where you can see what I reposted. Go ahead and give him a follow. But the power of tiny gains. 1% better every day is a goal that Walid lives by, and something that I live by as well, but now I'm going to adopt this phrase and this line of thinking because it's a beautiful graph that you will see in his post where it shows 1.01 to the 365th power. If you multiply that by 365 days of consistent, constant improvement, you're going to get 37.78 out of that, okay? So you're going to improve. You're going to go up. But if you are getting 1% worse every day, you're going to slowly but surely go down. And I would even wager to say that in this generation, this life, if you are consistently getting worse, even if it's by 1% every single day, you might actually want to consider that by not changing, by not improving, technically you are getting worse. So today, what is something out there that you can push yourself to achieve that you've never achieved before? Even if it's seriously just a fragment better than what you've done in the day prior, you are on the right track. And it's these little consistent improvements that will honestly make you look back and you will wonder, damn, how did I get to this level? How did I have this success? How did I actually achieve what I'm achieving right now? And honestly, as you continue to achieve, I'm even likely to say that sometimes when you fail, that is actually a huge win in and of itself. A lot of times I strike out in this game, in the music industry, in the creative industry, and in a lot of other realms that I study and that I would love to win in and just succeed and build my legacy in. But to be honest, when I strike out, I'm even lucky that I got to the plate, guys. Look back at your life. Are there things that you're doing right now that you could not have imagined doing in the past? Because I think that's also at the core of this post that I'm speaking about. If you are at bat at all, and maybe it was a dream to even get up to the plate, to perform in that arena or to perform in that stadium, you're already on the path to victory. Because we all know that in order to hit a home run, you've got to step up to the plate. You're going to strike out sometimes, but you're also possibly going to hit that grand slam. It's going to happen. But if you don't swing, it never will. All right, guys, I got really fired up right there, and I just had to share that. Hey, look, we've got some reviews on iTunes that have really been making this so amazing for me. I love doing the show. And one thing that I do is I just love to inspire others. And we have a post from my man, Frack D, that I wanted to give a shout out for. He left it on July 16th. And the post says that the podcast is absolutely wonderful. It's been entertaining and full of useful content. Majority of the interviews of guests are EDM or electronic musicians and producers, but it's literally for every producer and musician out there. It is such an inspiring podcast. I listen to every episode, and I listen to them in only a few days. I listen to some of the episodes a couple of times over. Great content. Every episode is worth a listen. My favorite episodes, though, are the Kato on the Track and the KJ Blattenbauer episodes. They're all interesting and full of great advice. FERMI is an amazing artist and a great podcast host. He's sharing trade secrets and cares about the success of other musicians and producers. Great job, FERMI. And my man, Frock D, I really appreciate you, brother. I'll tell you, the KJ Blattenbauer and the Kato on the Track episodes are actually pretty stellar, if I do say so myself. So go back and check those out, listeners, if you haven't heard them yet. Frock D, once again, thanks so much for leaving a review. And if any of you listeners out there would love to drop a comment in the section there on iTunes, I would super appreciate it. It helps out with the algorithm. It helps push my show up so that more listeners can get exposed and understand what we're working on here at the Music Producers Treasure Box podcast. This is for all the producers out there, all the creatives, all the folks that want to monetize and make a living out of their passion for music. I want to get more of you guys up to bat. I want to make sure that even if you strike out, you're going to come back to the plate again and you are going to hit that home run, hit that grand slam. Or man, even if it's just a single, no pun intended, you're going to get on base and you're going to keep going. You're going to succeed in this game. Let's get into this new episode with my man, Walid Azami. It was an amazing interview and he dropped so many jewels that I know you are going to appreciate. Let's get into it right now. Let's go. I'm good today, man. How are you doing? You down in Los Angeles?
Yeah. Just prepping for a photo shoot for tomorrow and just, stuff for my masterclass.
For sure, man. I crammed in some of your YouTube videos last night, so caught up on everything that you're doing and just really appreciate all the content that you've been dropping for everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Could you tell our audience here on the Music Producers Treasure Box a little bit more about who you are as a photographer and your journey to how to photograph and how that's really come about?
Sure, but I got to say, I like your name, that it is a treasure box. Mm-hmm. And when you find it, there's a lot of good stuff in there. My name is Walid Azami. I am LA-based photographer, director, and creative director now for brands. I started, and I'm still doing music. I worked a lot with, I was Usher's private photographer for a couple of years. I shot Kanye, did Sierra, directed a video for Mariah Carey for NFL season opener, Christina Aguilara's world tour videos, the ones behind her when she's on stage. And just a bunch of people like Ricky Martin, Courtney Love, Lollapalooza. I mean, just a bunch of stuff. So that's what I've done. I'm still doing all that stuff. Now I've branched off to also creative directing for certain artists and actually companies too. So they'll bring me on and they'll say, okay, you understand how to put it all together. You understand, you have all the contacts, you understand what looks good. Come on our side and help us put it together. So Absolutely. That's been really challenging and I love that. And then the other half of my my career at the moment or what I'm really also passionate about too, is I put my camera down for about 8 months. This is about 3 years ago. I put my camera down for about 8 months. I was over it. Yeah. I was over everything that this business was. And I think a lot of your listeners can relate to that on the music side. Yeah. I was over people taking advantage of artists. I was over people ripping artists off. I was over people lying. I mean, just because I think that if you are an artist, if you're a true artist, right? I think that you are one of the most vulnerable beings out there and you're truly empathetic. And so, yeah, we act really tough on a lot of times, but we're super sensitive. Yeah. And so I think that this is really extreme and it is what it is. But I think that when you con an artist or rip off an artist, it's like, to me, it grosses me out as much as like when you hurt a child or somebody elderly, right, Right. I'm like, man, these people are like trying to make you feel things, jerk, and you're trying to take advantage of people. So I got really tired of it. I was with an agency management company. They wanted me to be more like this photographer, more like that photographer. And when somebody pecks at you 100, you could say no 100 times. Eventually, you start giving in, just because you're tired of the pecking.
Absolutely.
And I guess I slowly started to change my style, and things really did not. It was such a slow process, right? And when it wasn't fun anymore to take pictures. It wasn't fun anymore to create. I was moodier on set by far. Like, God help anyone that said the wrong thing to me, And I was just over it, because I was like, this is what you put I put my whole traditional life on hold, as far as having a family and, doing the whole suburbia life, where my friends are doing that. And I'm very proud of them for this big dream. And I thought, well, this dream isn't even fun anymore.
Yeah.
So, double loss here, And I think that everybody is allowed to. Boy, I answered like 15 more questions, but I'm going to just finish it up.
I'm like, there's so many jewels that were dropped here, and so many things I could relate to. So, I want to hear kind of how you came to the current state, but man, just so many things I want to touch back on later there.
Artists, especially artists, one of the worst things you can do is pretend not to feel and hide your emotions. It's just like it's a kick to your own crotch. Okay.
Yeah.
Go through it. If you got to punch a hole through a wall, punch a hole through a wall. The only way out is through, and go through the emotions. And then when it's out of your system, get up and do something about it. And so I decided one day in my big studio in downtown LA, I had a 5,000 square foot photo studio. Okay. And people would rent it out sometimes too. And I would just stare at them and, whatever, daydream. But I saw so much happening in front of me, and in my own career and everything, and just hearing things. And I was like, you know what? You could either sit here and mope and cry about this, or you can get up and be what you wish people would be. And I guess be the change. And so I decided to start this secret account called How to Photograph on Instagram with literally one follower, which was my own personal account, and I decided to put, right, you got to follow yourself first.
Got to kick it off somehow.
Everything good that ever happened to me, everything bad that ever happened to me, without exposing the clients and the exact, their identity, I started to teach whoever would listen the business. Absolutely. So that nobody else went through what I went through, and that they also benefited from my gains, but they avoided the pitfalls, as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I just decided to post it. Next thing I know, I have like one more follower, and then they dropped out. And, eventually now I'm at, I think, about 51 or 52,000 people, and I'm about 3 years into it. And it started to really grow, and people started to really share and leave comments like, who is this? You're amazing. Thank you for helping us out. And I was making sure that artists did not lose copyrights, that they invoiced right, that they did not get ripped off on anything. And also, of course, lighting tips and composition and everything. And eventually my friend's like, look, you have quite the resume. Yeah. So I think you should attach your name to it, because I think it'll give it a lot more legitimacy. And I did. And that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm growing this community of photographers that I'm trying to coach them, that there's enough room for everyone to win. And, and I guess the same would happen with musicians too. And I'm trying to tell them to value yourself and stop working for free. And lighting tips along the way, and how to book things. And so that's turned into a masterclass, and, all these different things. There Absolutely. You go. That was what was supposed to be a 30-second intro.
That was amazing. That was a whole book written there in about, a 2 to 5 minute statement. And one of the things that just popped out to me there at the end is, for all of my listeners out there, I know that a lot of people are tuning in today because we're going to talk a lot about getting a great shot for your electronic press kit, for album covers, and all of that jazz. But when I follow your account, Walid, when I really started looking at the different things there, it's so inspirational, right? I'm not a photographer. I do have some photo, equipment that I use for my YouTube and different things that I do beyond just the iPhone. But I'm not a professional photographer, and I'm not necessarily trying to take your advice to build an excellent portfolio to get into galleries or to pitch to models or to companies. However, creativity is creativity, right? So I love that you touched on just, artists and how you see yourself, and you've seen so many true artists out there being vulnerable, being sensitive, and being passionate about what they do, because this was a true passion project, right? Your How to Photograph thing started out clandestine, secretive, and just a real passion project. So it's been amazing, and I want all of my listeners to go check out that account, because whether you are interested in photography or creativity in any way, there's definitely something of value there that you can find and pull out. So I'm interested also in something else you said, and I think a lot of us can relate to this. We as musicians and as artists, we want to be authentic, we want to be pure, and we want to, put our true selves out there for everybody to see, but we're faced with criticism. So you actually faced it when people wanted you to be like a different photographer or use a different style than what you were really drawn to. And I know that a lot of the beat makers and music producers listening can associate themselves with that. They want something that's popular. They want something that, people enjoy, but they also want to be themselves. So they will hear, hey, you should do this style. You should do that style. If you go on YouTube, you'll see Gunna type beat and different things where it's like, it's always got to be compared to something that people know, right? And rather than just a great song. So, how do you just deal with that as a photographer, and how do you think about that overall as an artist?
Good question. Okay. So yeah, there's so many similarities between the two groups, but I started my career, basically assisting and project managing for Madonna. So I got somebody that's, a legend right there, right? Yeah. And I got to see what she did in following her own path. But that was very helpful. But as far as the exact question, what was let me break it down in two. So the first question was...
Yeah, when you're being compared to others, when people are criticizing and saying you should do more of the popular style, how do you combat that? How do you face that?
Can I use bad words?
Sure.
The first thing I do is I've mastered the polite smile while saying shut the fuck up in my...
Okay.
And so that's the first thing. The second thing is I go through a checklist, basically. Okay. So the first thing I'm like, okay. The second thing, I ask myself why they're offering me this suggestion that was unsolicited. So what's missing in their life? Because what they're doing is telling you what they're going through. And the third thing is, have they done what I want to do? So if you haven't, I play with GarageBand, but I will never publicly post any of that stuff. So I'm not going to tell you what kind of music, you know what I mean? I don't listen to them. The other thing I also have to tell myself is I look at things through data, right? So for example, when I spoke earlier, before we recorded about, my YouTube channel and stuff, and I said it's a little bit of a slower growth than let's just say a Peter McKinnon or somebody that has a couple million people. The way I looked at it is that there's an audience for you. And it's crazy because I would rather have, per your own words, I'd rather have 1,000 really devout people than 100,000 people who don't care if I exist or not,
Absolutely.
And those 1,000 people are going to propel you through waters that you couldn't do alone. And 100,000 people are just a silent crowd that they're great. They're great people. They don't care about you. It's like those artists that you're like, they're cool. You don't have an opinion about them. Like Kanye, you got an opinion on.
Yeah, for sure.
When I started working with Madonna, everyone's like, oh, I hate her. She's so this, or I love her. And I was like, but I've never met anyone that's like, yeah, they have an opinion.
Polarizing.
On her. And completely. And I respect that a lot, And so I think do your own thing. Your crowd will find you. And it is like from the movie, if you build it, they will come. So like when I make these YouTube videos on helping photographers, I've realized, like I saw the stats one day of how many subscribers there are on YouTube or how many accounts there are. If 99.99% think I'm the worst thing on earth, that 0.01 is still enough to have like 100,000 followers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not even about the followers, but it's about there's enough people to love you and buy all your music, to go to your shows and everything. And it's I always have to remind myself that you know, there's a crowd for me, and I learned that through my photography too. So I do that. I have to say, shut up in my head. Then I go through the checklist of, is this a person that's accomplished what I have? Look, if I meet Annie Leibovitz at a bar, I'm gonna listen to Annie, Yeah. But if someone's like, oh, it'd be cool if, I just think, okay, why are you offering me this? Because I didn't ask for it.
Yes, I think you also touched on a lot of the times the criticism, the feedback, the random statements that you really didn't ask for that are negative usually are coming from that other person and what they're missing rather than really trying to contribute back to you. But at the same time, I have to tell you, the 1,000 True Fans thing, that's actually, I think is an article written by Kevin Kelly, the ex-editor, maybe one of the founders of Wired Magazine. And it is so true. So when we chatted before recording about just kind of how one of your accounts is moving a little bit slower, the difference is, that there's a lot of engagement, right? And to me, there's nothing more off-putting than some of these folks out there, whether they're musicians, artists, celebrities, and, they have maybe, 100,000 followers on whatever channel, whatever network, and they're like following one person back or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, what is that about? And I know people who have only 1,000 followers, and I'll tell you, I feel like 1,000 people comment back on every post they do because they're legitimately commenting back, they're building relationships, and they're adding value to those people that are following. So that 1,000 True Fans thing, not only just in terms of monetization, but just in terms of really having diehard super fans is 100% true.
Exactly. Yeah. And people, it's crazy with social media, we've become more detached from other human beings. So I don't like to, I rag on certain accounts too. I'm like, oh, look, another shirtless picture. We got it. You're in shape,
Yeah.
But when you're offering me value, like I follow accounts that's like, I have this struggles trying to like eat less meat,
Mm-hmm.
But when you're offering me daily tips on how to be a better human, I love those accounts. And I think that social media could be awesome. Or an artist that takes me on their voyage. I love reading real stories where they actually put a spotlight on their imperfections.
No, I love that. I mean, there's a before and after picture, maybe in regards to fitness, let's say, or how your music studio looks, to relate that to more to my audience. But more than just saying, hey, this was last year and this is this year, what's up? I would not want to follow that as much as an account or a person who says, hey, this was the before, this is the after, and these are some of my steps that I took to get there. This is how you can follow in my footsteps.
Exactly. It builds a community, because if you tell me you're perfect, I don't know how to relate to you because I'm hardly perfect. Anyway,
100%. Well, look, Walid, I know you have a lot going on today. You're preparing for a photo shoot, probably right now. But I want to ask you specifically for my audience, when they're looking to get photos taken for electronic press kit, for album covers, things of that nature, professional shots, what should they look for in a photographer? And, as a photographer, how can we treat you with respect and dignity to make the job easier?
Love that second part. Thank you. Number one, I'll tell you what I look for as a photographer. So I'll answer your questions backwards. If you don't credit the photographer in the captions, unless you're not going to get a favor from me, right? Yeah. So if you don't do that, you're making a deliberate decision to hide the creator of that image.
Right.
It's like you're making a deliberate decision because, we think about who you tag and every time you post. So when you just tag me in the picture, I know that you made a deliberate decision that I don't want to give Walid this bit of spotlight. And we all as artists, we rely on each other to put the work out there. Because if you're a musician, you have probably other musicians / managerial / PR / record label friends.
Yep.
Put my work out there. And guess what? I'll put your work out there. And I'll talk about how great your music is and how good the vibe is and how much I want to see you win, right? So first things first is, even if you've paid for the shoot, and we should always pay for the shoot, but put it in the caption. Don't hide that. It's not cool. It's not, like, we know you didn't take that picture, just like, like when isn't it great when a singer actually says produced by or written by? You're like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of memes about that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And we know there's a lot of huge name stars that take credit for a lot of stuff that they don't do. Mm-hmm. I want to say one name, but I also want to work with her, so I'm not going to say I'm not going to say that.
We'll keep that secret. We'll keep that secret.
So that's one thing. But the other thing, too, is look at the photographer. Now, logistically, look at the photographer, and I'll tell you this. If someone is shooting you for free, there's a reason why they're shooting you for free. And the reason probably is that they're not that good. Okay, so the way especially when a musician comes to me and says, hey, I'm going on a tour, or I'm releasing this new album, or I'm putting out this music video, can you direct it? I've actually written blogs about this where I think of it as only another artist would understand this, but I think to be a true artist and you're a musician or a singer and whatever, that whole genre, you have to have gone through some shit to write that music.
Yeah.
And it comes from a very personal place, and I respect that. And so when somebody gives me their music and says, here, this is from me writing in my journal, to going through the pain, to going in the studio, that's a whole other war front. Mm-hmm. And then getting it out there, and whether it's through a label or independent release, but they're basically saying, help me put visuals to it so it has the best chance of surviving. To me, I look at that as somebody handing me their newborn and saying, help me make this person better.
Right.
So when somebody gives me their music, I don't give it anything less than 100%. I'll kill myself, all-nighters, make sure they get what they deserve in the best way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to charge for my expertise. I'm going to charge for my work and my passion and the years of work that I put in, to make a beautiful image. A photographer that doesn't charge generally doesn't give that kind of love to your project.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay? They just don't. And there's a reason why they're not charging. And with my account, I want to teach them, hey, slow it down, charge, but give them your all, And so look for that. Look for consistency as my second thing. If they are consistently showing one or two styles consistently, like this person's got strong shadows and contrasts and super saturated. Okay, if that's what you're looking for, that's what you're going to be getting. But if they're shooting something that's very dreamy and ethereal, and also something super polished and glossy, and then they're giving you black and white and documentary, well, what are you going to be getting?
Yeah. Do you know what you're going to get, right?
Exactly. You might get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, so you're just going to get something kind of muddy. And that's why I tell photographers, you guys, you want to be a master, you want to be raved about, you want to be recommended and referred and paid a lot more, be the master in something. And I think that would apply with, music producers and stuff too. Like, what do you do? Country or, dance or R&B or what?
Right.
Be the master, and that artist is going to be like, I got to have his or her sound,
For sure.
And so musicians definitely look for that. Look for someone who is willing to say no to you and tell you what's best for you. Yes, people are poison for your career. I test people out all the time. I test people out if they're yes people. If they're yes people, that'll be the last time I work with them.
Wow. I love this approach, man. I love this insight.
Yeah. And I don't care. It's my career. It's my passion. Because yes people are liars. Mm-hmm. They care more about their own comfort than your career or your artistry or messaging. Right? So they are willing to put their comfort ahead of what's best for you. That to me is a liar. And great, I'll have a drink with them. and I'll talk about things lightly, but you're not going to have access to my creative room.
Right. And I feel this also coming so strongly from you because, to go back to your statement, you're thinking of your art just like you thought of a musician's music, as a newborn baby. I mean, that's one of the most extreme statements I've ever heard that just describes the true passion, the true nurturing aspects that you take with artists and that we should all take, I think, when it comes to our own stuff. You know, how do you help make sure that this message, this piece of art makes it and survives in the world in order to add value to more people? One thing, though, that I wanted to just kind of recap, and I wanted to make sure that our audience gets, and if you wanted to qualify anything, you're saying that a lot of folks out there, if they hire a photographer and they're willing to do it for free, I mean, I'm sure there's some exceptions, right? Like maybe they're an art student building a portfolio, but you also have to realize that you might not get the quality that you're hoping for, and that's just something that you'll have to kind of give up in that case. But you're also saying, what I've heard a lot of is that you're going to get what you pay for, right? So I think there's a definite tendency for people to value shop, and I get that. But at the same time, if you're just going out there trying to lowball the photographers, lowball anybody that you're working with, the reality is you might not be working with the best of the best. And if they, no matter how good they are, if you're undercutting them, they might have other clients or other projects that take kind of the first seat, so to say. And you're also saying, look at their portfolio, which I think this was super impactful for musicians and artists, especially who try to kind of be all over the place, master every style or dabble in a little bit of everything. And I think it's so true, right? If you work with a photographer who has an ethereal type look, a very clean, crisp, I don't know, black and white documentarian kind of look and all this stuff, that's awesome that they can do it. But when you actually do some work with them, are you sure you know what you're going to get?
Exactly. And so it's about the guarantee of what I'm going to get. And just to elaborate on the last one that I made, which was yes, people, you need somebody to say, hey, that's not a good look. I know you like that, but that's been done by this artist, and you always compare to them. I don't think that's a good look for you. Now they can have the last decision, right? And say, no, I really want this. I'm like, okay, but someone else did it first, but I need to say it. I need to look out for them. For example, okay, let me just, there was an NBA game where Fergie sang the national anthem, and it was so bad. If y'all don't know it, YouTube that, and that I just looked and I was like, oh my God, nobody in your camp had the guts to stand up to you for whatever reason and said, you're going to make a fool of yourself. And she can sing, or when you see somebody like, they're saying this last Beyonce music video from The Lion King is like a scene by scene replica of another project. Now, we don't know if Beyonce pulled that or her creative director did or the director of the video. Somebody on set should have said, this is looking very familiar.
Right. Let's
just check before. When I was shooting Usher, there was a shot that he wanted to do, and I was like, Justin's done that. Timberlake. Yeah. And I was like, Timberlake's already done that.
You guys are already compared to each other a lot, so might want to switch it up.
Justin's done that. So I don't want you to see those comments in the blogs. And he looked at me for a second like he had this challenge in his head of like, damn it, like he's right, but I don't like to be told no because that's a superstar. But I think he appreciated like, okay, because obviously we changed the plans real fast, right. And you forget who's done it. So he wasn't copying anybody. It's just that you need somebody to have the guts to risk getting in trouble for the greater good, for their quote unquote baby.
I love that. And that's actually something I wanted to ask you. You've worked with a lot of celebrity superstars, and it seems like you're somebody who is not a yes man. You're going to give your opinion. You just told us how you told Usher, nah, you can't do that one, man. Justin did that. So what kind of, traits have you seen in these successful people that allows them to be, definitely opinionated on their own right, but also open to feedback? Because, and this is my little disclaimer, the thing I've noticed about people that are not successful is usually that they're not open to feedback. And in fact, if you call them out, if you're not a yes man, they will get mad or something, right? I'm just wondering what you've seen kind of as trends or commonalities between some of these other stars when you hit them with this real feedback.
Let me think. I'm just scanning in my head. Well, they're all workaholics. In their own way, they're all workaholics, and they all know that they deserve a certain level of success.
Got it.
You know, when I mentioned Madonna earlier, workaholic, she knows she's not the best voice to not, like she's not, but she knows how to take that talent and become the biggest name on the planet, pretty much. Her and Michael, when I worked with Usher, workaholic. I mean, but he knows when to turn on and he knows what he wants. And I'll see him try to explain it to people and go, no, the light should go like this. And, and then like, if that's not if that's not resonating with the lighting director, then he'll like call to somebody within sight that could also help him articulate that, Right. They know what they want. When I worked with like Mariah Carey, she was more about, she didn't want to really, she's not one to put in the hours as much, but she knows her value. And she's like, I'm going to give him 3 songs. Like, I'm a legend. Are you kidding me? So it's like, she knows her value. Yeah. These people have to be incredibly confident, but they have to work really, really hard. And look, for Mariah to get there, she had to work her butt off, for many years. And the other thing, too, that I've realized about them is that they trust their instincts. And I think that if you don't trust your instincts, you're dead on arrival.
Absolutely. And I think that really goes back to being that true artist, being vulnerable, being sensitive, being open to feedback, but also not bending when people try to push you into just whatever the flavor of the month is. Walid, I know that you're a really busy guy, so I don't want to take too much more of your time. And it sounds like you have an awesome photo shoot today. What kind of departing thoughts would you like to leave us with? And how can people find out more about what you're doing?
The starting point is on Instagram. It's called How to Photograph. It's all one word. And then from there, of course, the links to a YouTube channel and blog and everything, right? So I'm very active there. The parting words, you guys, is just for whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, there's a market out there and somebody is going to more than appreciate you. They're going to love and want more of what you have. There's only one of you. Like even scientifically, it is impossible for someone to be exactly like you, right? Maybe I guess cloning, but we all have different fingerprints and different DNA and everything. For you to not share that true artistry is almost like you're stealing from yourself and from people who need your talent. And that's that. And so maybe you'll only serve 10 clients in your career, or maybe you'll serve 1,000. Just make each one special. Treat each person with respect. Put people on as much as you can. I don't know, just support people. And if I can add one more thing to that too, is reach out into your community and congratulate people. Okay, so this is something I try to, and I'll tell you, most of the time people think it's some kind of a setup, right? And they're like, oh, that's weird. I will always go into photographers' accounts, like someone tag them or whatever, and I'll go through and I'll leave a comment. I'm like, this is really beautiful lighting, or this picture is stunning, and I'll give them a legitimate thing just because I want to build that community between each other. And it probably will not bring me a job. It may not even bring me that person, in my life where like I have a beer with them. But what will happen is at the very least, they will feel better that one of their peers celebrated them. And that's always special. If my name ever comes up, they're like, dude, that guy is pretty cool. Like he supports the community. But you also never know what comes out of it. So I think that especially as musicians, like your heads are down and you're in the lab and you're creating, right? Once in a while, peek out and cheer on people that are your peers and tell them to keep going.
Absolutely. No, I think it really is a testament to brand building, reputation, and the reality that without a strong community around us, the industry doesn't exist that you're in.
Yeah. Make it fun. Make friends out of it. Yeah. Cheer them on and be like, damn, I wish I did that, but I'm proud of you for doing that, And that makes me want to raise the bar. That's good, healthy stuff. And that's how we rise up together. Sounds like a presidential campaign, but
All right. Well, Walid 2020, dude, it's been great to have you on here. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time.
Yes. I don't know about you, but that interview with Walid Azami was super rewarding and super valuable. I got a lot of content out of that. And to be honest with you guys, our conversation continued. It actually went on for so long that I had to trim a little bit of it out. And this weekend, I'm going to go ahead and drop by Sunday or Monday an extra bonus episode of the Music Producer's Treasure Box, which continues the conversation with Walid and includes thoughts on really how we need to make sure we are honing in our sixth sense and ensuring that we don't impress upon children, the upcoming generation, that they should be shutting down their emotions and shutting down their feelings. So stay tuned right here to the podcast channel. Subscribe and make sure you get notified when that drops. So what did you all hear? I heard somebody that took on a passion project, the whole how to photograph thing, and made sure that he, actually got out what he was feeling and what he was thinking as an artist. He reached a point in his career where he did feel a little bit stifled, but he was not going to allow that incredible inspiration to go away. And he decided to pay it forward by creating this project and sharing with all the other artists out there, all the other photographers, exactly how they should be thinking and how they can move faster and stay true to themselves. Remember, there is an audience for you. So I really want to relate this to my musicians out there listening to the show. There's an audience for you. There is an audience for you. Would you rather have 1,000 really devout fans who pay money to come to your show, who come up and get as close as they can to the stage and they're screaming every word to your songs if you're a songwriter? Or, 1,000 people who download and stream your song? Or would you like 100 people that kind of follow you, don't really care what you're doing, definitely not coming out to a show? It's really that devout 1,000 fans that are going to propel you forward. So start building that audience and start nurturing those fans. Start to give value to others, whether you can help them out or inspire them through truly passionate music. Say words that you really mean. Make sounds that you really feel, and release music that you truly can stand behind and believe in. Do not follow the flavor of the month. You don't want to be in that club. So look, another takeaway I really wanted to impress upon you all after Walid's statements was that yes, people are poison for your career. So it's kind of funny, even though you got to be true to yourself, you also do want to have people around you that have your best interests. So really keep that in mind as you're building up your team around you. Do you have somebody that will tell you the truth about your projects? And I mean the real truth. You've got haters out there who will lie to your face. And you've got yes men out there that will lie to your face as well, that will say everything you touch is gold. The reality is you need somebody right in the middle who's going to tell you how it is, possibly give you recommendations. They could be a friend, they could be a hired consultant, a manager, they could be your significant other. But the point is, you want them to be a real person giving real feedback, not a yes man, okay? Woo! It has been such a heated, such a passionate episode that I forgot to mention until now that in the interludes, in the beginning, in the end, in the outro here in a moment, you've been listening to songs that my buddy ATZ and I produced for our upcoming single release. The track is called Futurelle, and that's actually ATZ's track that I produced the remix for. You heard the remix on the intro, you'll hear his original on the outro. So everybody out there, truly take today's interview and make sure that you are pouring your heart and soul out into a passion project. Honestly, that could relate anywhere in your life. Doesn't have to just be in regards to our music and our creativity. Are you living your passions, and are you pouring everything that you've got into what you're truly passionate about? I want you to answer those questions. I really want you to be honest with yourself. All right. With that, everybody out there in the Music Producers Treasure Box community, please subscribe to the show. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments and in the review section. It does a lot for us here. This is your host, FERMI. And once again, I'm wishing you a blessed day and some amazing creativity in the music studio as soon as this episode ends. Peace.